this third section of this session, that is the Agile Playbook. So we started off with the daily struggles that we are facing in the industry or in our organizations, and then through that we came to an understanding about how are we going to solve these issues that we face, and through that we came to the understanding about agile values, right? So now we have a good grasp about what agile values are, what they are solving, and what kind of mindset we should have. So now it's high time that we go into an agile playbook where I can give you some good practices about what kind of things that you can follow to make sure that you follow proper agile practices. When I say follow proper agile practices, what I mean is, by following these good case practices, you are much more aligned to the values that we have in agile, and the problems that we are going to solve through agile would be solved. So if you focus about the first point, adapting quickly to evolving priorities and requirements, like backlog prioritization is one thing that is that happens every iteration or every sprint. Like we have a backlog of features, and one of the key components of agile, or scrum is a practice within agile. So one of the key components of scrum is a backlog. So in the backlog you have a set of features that we keep on discussing, sort of the roadmap of the product, right? So when it comes to backlog prioritization, every iteration, I think this is something that we should do. Because why we should do it every iteration? Because as and when the landscape changes, business landscape changes, the priority of different features based on the stakeholders' requirements would change. So the initial priority that we had for this backlog 1 week back or 2 week back would no longer be relevant in another week or so. So we need to make it a continuous practice to make sure that we prioritize the backlog. If everything is fine, we are good. But if something needs changes, right, something needs to be reordered, we need to do that and absorb that. And then shorter iterations, like we need to time box our cycles. Usually what I follow is 2 weeks is the maximum sprint duration that I follow. And depending on the project and depending on in the context of the product, it can go for 3 and 4 weeks depending at certain scenarios, but 2 weeks is the ideal thing that we suggest. So we need to target at short iterations. So we prioritize the backlog, and then we target a short iteration, and then we plan for it. We do estimations, we plan the resources, and then we deliver it. And then when it comes to dynamic road mapping, so before coming to dynamic road mapping, about short iterations. So if you go with the backlog prioritizations and short iterations, what that means is, like, for every iteration, for every 2 weeks, we are delivering something of value to the client or to the user base. So, and that is also relevant to the market as well, so which will give the output that we want. And when we come to the dynamic road mapping, again, like I said initially, we might have a roadmap. We can have a roadmap to our product. I want to get these features out within the next 2 months. I want to get these features out within the next 5 months, and then by the end of this year, this is what I want to see in my product. But a month can change a lot of things in the market, or a week can change a lot of things in a market, or a day can change a lot of things in a market. What if another client comes and put a different feature into the market, and the users go towards that feature? You have to scratch off your roadmap and then come up with a different roadmap to start competing with your competitor. So start having dynamic roadmaps. You can have a high level understanding or a roadmap about where you need to head, but always keep in your mind, depending on the market conditions or market trends, you might need to change these roadmaps, and you need to keep them as dynamic as possible. And sprint retrospectives is something that is very important. Like for every short iteration, there's a lot of changes that is happening. We do prioritizations, the roadmaps can change, our priorities might change. So at the end of each sprint, like, what we can do is we can get together and do a little bit of retrospection, where we identify, like, what are the things that we did well, what are things that we could do better, and what are the things that have changed. How can we figure out ways to adapt to this change in the next iteration, so that we as a team are relevant, and also we as what we are delivering is also relevant to the outside stakeholders. And incremental delivery, by doing these things, like incremental delivery is something that would happen in the background. Like, we deliver work in small chunks, small but usable chunks. So every 2 weeks, if we can come out with features which are small but at the same time contain some value or use to the users, then I think that is something that we should adhere to. So this is sort of few, practices, good case practices that we can think of. How are we going to adapt quickly to evolving priorities and requirements, and sort of part of the Agile Playbook. So second thing, ensuring continuous alignment with customer expectations and delivering value. So we spoke about in the previous thing, previous slide, we spoke about retrospectives and sprints. So here what we are looking at, like once we deliver something, let's say we plan for a feature in this iteration, and then we deliver it to the client or user base, we can have like reviews, like demonstrate it to the stakeholders and start getting feedback. So what it essentially means is we don't have to stay months or weeks, to get the feedback from the market or from the stakeholders for what we have developed. Every iteration, at the end of every iteration, if we can do a quick review, this can be like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on the context or depending on the time scale, right? And then if we can do a quick demonstration about what we did and get the feedback as much as possible, that will give us the possibility to get these feedback fixes and deliver some value faster than they expect. So frequent stakeholder engagement, it is also like in the review stage as well. In the sprint review stage, we engage a lot of stakeholders as well. But rather, before waiting to the review stage, at the stage where we plan the features, we design the features, we discuss the requirements for the features. From that stage onwards, I think the stakeholders should be involved, so that we reduce the gap where misalignments can happen or where miscommunications can happen, so that we know exactly what the stakeholders want and we will be delivering the same thing itself. User stories is a widely used scenario where they write the requirements, the teams write the requirements in a customer centric format. So that why we do is that is because to focus on delivering user value, because the customer understands what will be delivered, and that is the whole purpose of coming to the without writing the requirements in a technical manner, writing the requirements in the user stories. That is the whole purpose of doing that. Acceptance criteria, of course, it's for the team. Like once you write the user stories, you can define a clear acceptance criteria. What does an acceptance criteria means is like when you take a feature, how can you test that this feature is completed or this feature is ready to be released, right? So that is the acceptance criteria. If these things have been met in this feature, if the user can do this, if the user can do that, if the user can't do this, then we can consider that feature is working. So that is sort of the acceptance criteria. By defining this acceptance criteria, it has been very helpful for the developers and the quality assurance engineers in agile teams to make their work efficient, because they have one single source of truth about how the feature should work. Personas and journey mappings is sort of like something that we do at the brainstorming stages of a product, where we understand the user personas of the in the market, who we are to the market that we are catering to, and understand how their journeys would look like in while using our product, so that we design the product in such a way that we cater to the requirements, the pain points that we address the pain points that the customers have in the market that we are looking at. So final two is focus is prioritizing functional high quality deliverables over excessive paperwork. So every time we look at something, we focus on how are we going to come up with the MVP. The faster that we can get a minimal viable product for any product idea or for any project idea, if we can get an MVP out as soon as possible and put it into the market to test, then we can get feedback as much as possible. If this is going to fail, we will know faster. If this is going to succeed, we will know faster. If this requires a lot of changes, or this requires a change in direction in the roadmap, we will know faster. So it is very important for us to know what we don't know very fast. And the only possible way to do that is to come up with a minimum viable product and put it into the market as soon as possible, and then we can gather the feedback. So that is also something that we can apply at the feature level as well. Even the features for a product that we are doing, we don't have to make the features as perfect as possible to go to a release. But if it caters to the core requirement or the core functionality, we can put it out there and start getting features, and then later make it as functional, not functional, but perfect as possible, like add all the good to haves and enhancements. And continuous integration is a good practice to follow. Like I said, Test driven development is also something that we could focus in an agile team, where we write the test before coding to ensure that all the tests that are identified beforehand and also that needs to be passed we are met. We do this cycle until all the test cases are passed, and then we call it done. Definition of done is sort of uh, agreement between the team about how are we going to define something as done. So this does not limit to features, or this does not limit to releases. This is for everything. Like it's not just about finishing the coding or finishing testing. Maybe there are practices or things that the team has come to agreements with. So we put everything together and we come up with a definition of done, so that the team does not miscommunicate on anything or misalign with the agreements that the team has made between or within the team. And frequent releases, obviously I've been iterating this a lot of things. The whole purpose of this agile approach is to make sure that we provide value as fast as possible to the client or the stakeholders. So obviously frequent releases is a must that we do. Last, fostering collaboration and communication and team empowerment. Like daily stand-ups is something that a lot of organizations follow. So where it's a very short stand-up meeting, where it's sort of focused on like what's the progress, what did I do yesterday, what is my plan for today, and if there's any blockers, what are the blockers, and what help that I would need. So it's a very quick meeting to clear out the day's work, so that we can go in our plan, the plan that we have for the iteration seamlessly. So when it comes to sprint retrospectives, again, that's a agile ceremony. Like I said initially, it is a session that we usually have to reflect the success, challenges, and improvements, where it also can improve the team collaboration. At the same time, it also can it's a space where we can retrospect about how are we going to adapt to the change that is required in the project or in the features or the changes that are happening in the market. So cross-functional teams. So a lot of organizations sometimes go into a path where the development teams, quality assurance teams, business analysts, they operate as different functions, but rather a true agile team is a self-sustainable team with all these roles together. So the team should be self-sustainable. There's no such leader in the team. So there are roles and responsibilities within the team, like Scrum Master, Product Owner, developers, quality assurance engineers, etc. So it's all about doing these responsibilities that you have in the role that you are playing, and the team itself would be a self-sufficient team. And for these self-sufficient teams to function properly, we need to give them a high level of autonomy as well. We need to empower these teams, and make them we can't give them rigid or strict processes. Okay, this is exactly what you should do, this is exactly what you should align to, but rather we should enable them to make their own decisions and their own processes, and start delivering value in the way that we want. And in that way we can hold them accountable for what they are doing as well. And lastly, like shared product vision. Like if you're doing a product, we need to align all the team members around a common goal, because if else with time they would lose the interest for innovation. They would fail to understand the value that they are creating in the team that they are working in, etc. So these are a few good case practices that I could point out in working in an agile environment to solve the different problems that we discussed initially. So if you sum up this short discussion that we had today, like we started off with the problems that we face on a day-to-day basis in terms of lack of flexibility and adaptability, and then taking a long time to go to the market, and then we in terms of less focus on quality and customer satisfaction, and also less team morale and communications. And then after discussing these problems, we came into understanding about how we can solve these things, and which is exactly also the values or the mindset that we need to have in an agile environment. And through that we came to discuss a bit about what kind of good case practices that we can have in an agile environment to achieve each of these values. So that is pretty much it that I wanted to share to you through this masterclass. So I know this is a big area, and I streamline this into a specific thought process so that you can understand Agile a bit more better than you understood it previously. And there's a lot of areas that we could go in deep to discuss, and of course we can maybe catch up on a separate time to do that. So this is it from me. So thank you very much everyone for joining.